Fire is essential to our way of life today. We use it for cooking, warmth, and light. But did you know that for much of human history, fire was extremely rare and hard to come by? And what's more, prehistoric people couldn't just go outside and gather sticks to make a fire. You see, fire doesn't occur naturally in forests. It needs to be created by man or something like lightning strikes to happen. But there were no lighters back then, so humans had to get very creative with creating their fires. In fact, some archaeologists believe that the ability to create fire is what set us apart from other animals and helped us become the dominant species on Earth. Cooking meat over an open flame allowed our brains to start shrinking in size because we didn't need to spend as much energy chewing on raw meat anymore. This also gave our ancestors many health benefits, as eating cooked food can help eliminate harmful bacteria and parasites. Not only did fire allow us to eat better food, but we could also use it to ward off dangerous predators, cast away unwanted guests, and protect ourselves from the elements. Most importantly, fire provided light during the night, which allowed us to be active longer and accomplish more things. With all these benefits, you would think that humans would have done whatever it takes to obtain fire. So, how did they do it? The most popular theory on how early humans got fire is called the controlled accident hypothesis. This states that humans noticed that if you put two hard stones together really hard, they would sometimes produce sparks. These sparks would land on dry grass or leaves and cause them to burn. At first, this must have been a rare occurrence, but once humans understood that hitting two stones together could produce fire, it became more common. But if you tried this yourself, you might be wondering where the heck those sparks went. Sparks aren't created by the friction between two stones, but rather inside of the stone itself. When two stones are struck together, the force causes electrons to move within the stone. If these electrons collide with other atoms within the stone, they can knock off additional electrons. These electrons then travel through the stone until they find a weak area where they can break through the surface. They're emitted as photons, which we see as light. If these photons strike a combustible material, they can cause it to ignite. But there was one problem with this method. Flint and steel, the two materials used to produce sparks, is exactly what humans needed to build a fire. But here's the thing. Flint and steel is pretty hard to come by. You see, flint and steel is made from a type of rock called chert. Chert is made when ocean water evaporates and deposits minerals that eventually turn into solid rock. Then, when this rock is exposed to the atmosphere, weathering occurs and silicon dioxide fills in the gaps between the minerals. This forms a new type of rock called flint. But flint is only created under very specific conditions. For example, it can't be created at the bottom of the ocean because there's too much pressure. Nor can it be created near the surface of the ocean because there isn't enough energy. So flint could only be found along shorelines where waves would crash onto the rocks and create enough force to cause weathering. Also, the ocean needs to be warm and salty and have a lot of silica. All of these conditions line up perfectly in the Mediterranean Sea, but there weren't any humans there to take advantage of it until about 1.5 million years later. This meant that the humans who discovered the controlled accident technique were probably not using flint and steel, but rather something more readily available like pyrite and dolerite. Pyrite is a mineral made up of iron and sulfur. It has a golden color and looks a lot like gold, hence its name fool's gold. Doleritic is a hard, igneous rock. Humans would hit these two materials together to create sparks that would start small fires. Once they realized that they could use these small fires to create larger ones, they were able to cook their food. But this still brings us back to the original question: where did they get their food before they had fire? Scientists believe that before humans had fire, they mostly ate fruit, nuts, and other plant matter. Meat probably played a small part in their diet. But you might be thinking, well, why didn't they just eat the meat raw? The truth is they probably did. But cooking meat over a fire gave them several advantages. First of all, the fat in the meat would render out and add flavor to the meat. Secondly, cooking meat made it easier to chew and digest. And finally, cooking meat killed bacteria and parasites that could make humans sick. So now that humans had fire and knew how to cook meat, they were able to nourish themselves better than any other animal. In addition to providing humans with nutrients, fire also helped keep predators away. Animals rely heavily on their senses to find food. If a fire is burning brightly, it can attract prey and scare away predators. Some scientists even believe that fire contributed to the extinction of many large animals during the Stone Age. You see, larger animals require more calories to survive. They would have been able to find food over a larger area before fire was invented. But with fire, humans were able to hunt at night and in places where large animals couldn't get to. This meant that humans could hunt the best prey without the big animals competing with them. In fact, right after humans invented fire, there was a mass extinction of many large mammals. But fire wasn't always easy to come by. During the Ice Age, humans had to compete with other animals to keep warm. It could take hours to start a fire in cold conditions, which required lots of energy. Humans that were able to create fire faster were more likely to survive. During times of drought, fire could also save lives. Plants would dry out and become very flammable. Lightning strikes and volcanic eruptions could cause wildfires that would destroy entire forests. Humans would take advantage of these wildfires by moving their villages closer to the fires to take advantage of the heat. Sometimes they would even set fires themselves to clear out the brush so they could hunt more easily. Today, about 20% of the Earth is covered in trees. However, during the Bronze Age, 50% of the Earth was covered in trees, and it was not uncommon for large areas of Europe, Asia, and North America to be completely covered in forest. These forests acted as homes for countless animals, and humans found it difficult to find enough food for everyone. But every 100 years or so, lightning strikes would occur and cause massive wildfires. These fires would devastate the forest and kill off many animals, which made hunting easier. Large-scale wildfires have continued to occur throughout human history, and though they're devastating to humans, they're necessary to prevent disease and insect infestation. This is because all plants and animals carry diseases and insects. But when these plants and animals die in a wildfire, the diseases and insects are eliminated. Without wildfires, plants would be attacked by insects and diseases, which would slow down their growth and eventually kill them. Some scientists even believe that humans were able to expand so quickly because of fire. Before humans had fire, we were limited to traveling during the day and had to sleep in caves or makeshift shelters at night. Fire provided humans with a source of light, which meant we could travel at night and didn't have to worry about sleeping outdoors. Not only did fire make us safer, but it also made us smarter. See, the smartest humans would be the ones who were able to start a fire the quickest. This meant that the smartest humans were the ones who were most likely to survive and pass on their genes. As humans grew smarter, they started developing tools to improve their survival. Eventually, they developed knives made out of sharp rocks and spears made out of sticks with sharp objects tied to one end. These tools allowed humans to cut and stab animals, making it easier to get food. They could also use these tools to chop wood faster and more efficiently, which made it easier to keep a fire going. As humans continued to develop better tools, they were able to transition from nomadic hunter-gatherers to farmers and eventually to modern society. In fact, humans have been growing crops and raising livestock for about 12,000 years. This was made possible by the development of new tools such as the plow and sickle. The domestication of animals allowed humans to rely less on hunting and gathering and more on farming, which allowed them to stay in one place instead of wandering all over the place in search of food. Farming also provided humans with a reliable food source, which meant that they no longer had to worry about going hungry. This stability allowed humans to focus on other things besides finding food, like developing new technologies and building bigger communities. Overall, fire was an extremely useful invention for humans. It allowed us to cook our food, keep predators away, keep warm during the winter, and ward off unwanted guests. Fire also helped humans develop new tools and technologies, which eventually led to modern society. So next time you're sitting around a campfire, remember that it's only thanks to our ancestors' ability to create fire that we're able to live the comfortable lifestyles we do today. If you enjoyed this video, check out another one on how ancient humans hunted mammoths. Thanks for watching.